Good evening, everybody. Don't be alarmed by the title of this episode. I'm not making any massive changes. This is just a kind of rethinking of how I deliver these episodes. You'd be right if you were guessing that this has to do with the recent events of Charlie Kirk's assassination and Irina Zarutska's murder. For transparency, it's not like I was a long-time fan of Charlie's. I haven't even seen so much as a dozen of his videos or talks. But I saw enough to get what he was on about. And I could tell he was a good guy. I like to think I'm good at reading people. And I don't know Irina at all. If I had only heard about her as a passing news story, that's all it would be. Like 100 other incidents I've heard before. But we all know that one was different. We saw it. And we saw how unnecessary and how unspeakably evil it was. That poor girl. And that doesn't even do it justice. These two events were avoidable tragedies, and we know the cause. Like, we know 100% certain what the cause is. Irina's murderer was a long-time criminal. He had committed a number of violent crimes before, including the use of a weapon. He was let off easy every time. And we know the information on the last judge who let him off easy. She was a diversity hire, selected because of her characteristics, not her competence. And this right here is an example of what I mean by my channel is taking a new direction. I'm going to be a little bit more direct about certain things. I'm not going to be tiptoeing around this crap. Politics is poison. And it's warped people's sense of reality. It's warped people's grasp of what's actually important. Leftists want us to go easy on criminals, a specific demographic of criminals, because they know going hard on crime will affect them more than other demographics of criminals. They call it racism, and they would rather pander to this over-politicized concept than actually deal with what's important. That being the crime. The crime is what's important, and it has to stop. We have to arrest and punish these criminals proportionately. That is, to not go easy on them. And we need to not give a damn if that would affect some people more than others. That's not what's important. Okay, I have never threatened anybody in my life. And I imagine most of you have never threatened anyone either. It's incredibly easy, isn't it? It's easy to not be a criminal and to not point a weapon at someone in an attempt to rob them. If I had things my way, that would be called a threat to life and would come with a severe punishment, even for a first-time offense, especially for an adult. If judges had that sense of perspective, of understanding the proper severity of violent crimes, Irina Zarutska would still be alive today, and none of us would have to have seen that video. And as for Charlie Kirk, we know leftists falsely labelled him. As a fascist, they wrongfully called Trump a Nazi. They use words as weapons to slander and demonize their political opponents as something they're not to justify attacking them. And then, unsurprisingly, both these men had leftist lunatics attempt to take their lives. Radicalized college kids, no less. And yeah, it's the colleges. There's a reason why I endeavor to learn philosophy on my own, outside of academia. Because I know it's a politically captured institution. So, unless people gripe at me over what I've just said, I expect that's all I'll be saying about those two events for the foreseeable future. Now, as for my channel, I will still be... Of course, I can't get through this in one shot. It will still be primarily about philosophy, but I'm going to approach it a little differently. In the past, I was structuring it to people who were already intellectually inclined. I naively assumed that the subjects I was talking about would attract people who are interested in talking about them. Philosophical types, who have already spent some time with philosophy that I can just put my ideas out there and have people discuss them. I've learned a couple of things over time. One is why things like my charts and scales are important is not immediately apparent to people. And that's because they're not actually important, least of all to the average person. It's more like they can be, but not innately. But I want to try and explain anyway. I think these things are important because I was trying to pin down something we could all fundamentally agree on, and this is also important because we need consistent principles in society if we want to solve our social and personal problems. Like, take my scale of tangible harm, for example. Using this scale, you can see my argument for what constitutes harm and what doesn't. Or maybe what may still be potentially harmful, but is tolerable or not overtly noticeable. Now, apply this to a real-world example. We have people who think it's perfectly justified to punch someone for saying a word they don't like. Now, sure, most people I expect already know why that's wrong. But let's see how that works on this scale. Telling someone they're ugly. I would place this somewhere in the 1 to 4 range of harm. It's a word, intended as an insult, so it's intended to do harm. But what harm does it actually cause? As, say, compared to punching someone in the face. Now, I definitely think that belongs as a 5 out of 10 on this scale. Could be higher, as some punches just wound, whereas others permanently damage for life. So you can see, is it proportionate? Is it a reasonable response? When an insult doesn't permanently damage for life, you could easily forget about it an hour later, and for some people, it doesn't faze them whatsoever. How about another example? Say, trying to rob somebody by threatening them with a weapon. Where would that go on this scale? For anybody with common sense and isn't a diversity hire. This is the nature of some of our conflicts, some of our problems. We have inconsistent values, inconsistent ideas of right and wrong. And this is because we've adopted ideas before we've even thought of establishing what's fundamentally true. And you do that by asking the question. Like, you've got people who are okay with abortion. You've got people who are not. Both have some kind of moral argument to justify it. Some people are okay with circumcision. Some of us are not. Both have some kind of justification. But it's like, right, okay, there is definitely something wrong here, right? You can see it. People are seeing there is something wrong, which is why they have an opinion on any of this nonsense to begin with. So, maybe we could try and pin down what's wrong here. Now, how do we do that? By first pinning down what's fundamentally true. We ask some fundamental questions. When it comes to abortion, are we talking about a developing human child? Is the developing child alive? When it comes to circumcision, is the baby supposed to have that part of their body intact? And does a baby feel pain? And I know, I haven't actually made any statements of how things should be, but already I'm crossing into the boundaries of controversy, aren't I? Already people are pointing at me and they want to say something. That's because we know. A part of being human is we have this ability to think logically. We don't do it all the time, but it's there, running in the background at all times. So we already know right from wrong. We've been practicing it for 1,000,000 years. It's there. We already know. It's just that we've been taught a bunch of lies by people with their own twisted, emotionally driven, and personally insecure agendas who want things to be a certain way, whether everyone else likes it or not. So this is what I mean. I'm not going to have any illusions that I'm some aspiring intellectual trying to have dialogue with other intellectually inclined people and taking part in a development of a new age of enlightenment. We are, in fact, in a new dark age. People are not here to discuss ideas. They're here to win a war. Well, so am I. But it is still very much a war of ideas. And losing this war is not going to come down to which side won over the other. This war is about the corruption in people's hearts and their minds, and the truth that will be our salvation. That's how we're going to win. You can all see it. There's something rotten in our society, and it's actually at its core the result of us failing to understand what's true, to care about what's true over personal benefit. And that's what we need to do. Or we lose. Fair warning, I'm still going to be cavalier with when I can and can't be bothered to make a video. And I still have this sense of impending doom that something's going to happen. I live in Australia, after all. The horizon here with the creeping political surveillance and soft authoritarianism doesn't look good. But whatever. We do what we can in life and hope it was enough. So that's all for tonight. I'll see you guys in the next episode.